We're often told by religion, metaphysics, and even philosophy that which dwells within each of us, our spirit, if you will, is immortal, and that we, in essence, never truly die. But what if that isn't the case? What if our inner being, our hopes, dreams, and memories are as immortal as our flesh and bone? Let us explore this terrifying notion in a story called The Soul Eaters. And that exploration begins here on the Nightfall radio show. There's a creature known to Buddhist monks, but you will probably never hear of its name. They've sheltered it in secrecy for thousands of years high atop a mountain monastery. Such creatures are made of a kind of plasma. They look much like translucent jellyfish and traverse the space between planets. The reason you'll never hear of it is because it's a guarded secret of the ancient Black Masters. For thousands of years, the order has occupied the monastery, which is built into the rock of the mountain. They rarely venture from it. The impoverished peasants below hold and have always held them in great regard. It was the greatest wish of all families that one of their children would be chosen to become one of these monks. Once every 12 years, the monastery would open the compound gate to choose which children would be accepted into the teachings. Boys between the ages of 5 and 9 would hike with their families the long path up the mountain. The families were not allowed to stay, so the children were left at the gate. The boys would wait outside in silence and stillness until the monks would come and choose. They would be made to wait days without food or water. Most would leave and wander home. Once the monk opened the gate and chose who were deemed worthy, they would be taken within the sanctuary walls. If the parents did not see their child returning from the mountain, they knew their son was accepted. Sadly, however, he would never be allowed out or to see his family again until he was in his 20s. While this was hard on their families, they knew that their child would be taken care of and later in life be able to take care of the family and bring them honor. In a world of abject poverty and starvation, this was the greatest wish and hope of these parents. The child would be dressed and prepared and led by a monk up to one of the higher building rooms. The monk would unbind ropes that locked 2 wooden doors and place the boy inside, standing before the altar. He would then lock him in alone. Spaces in the walls close to the ceiling let in the only light. The altar ran the length of the room, carved into the rock, 5 feet high and 12 feet deep. In the center of this step, a round hole 5 feet in diameter had been bored out. The hole in the stone was perfectly cylindrical, 20 feet down and concave at the bottom. Of course, the boy could not see this or the hole itself, only the thing that protruded from it. A clear, gelatinous-looking dome-shaped monster seemed to sit on the altar as the rest of its body tendrils rested within the hole. While the creature had no eyes of its own, it appeared as if someone had penciled Asian eyes onto its mass, and they stared at him. The boy stood frozen, crying at the sight. The creature did not move toward him, yet somehow drew the soul and life force from the child's body, killing him. As the tiny body collapsed to the floor, the plasma monster would encase its soul in a clear sphere from which it could not escape. It looked like a tiny spark of light inside a glass ball. A tendril moved up from the hole and wrapped around it, pulling it beneath. The plasma monster would sit upon them, all the while feeding off the trapped soul's energy. There are thousands of these balls in the well. The ones at the bottom are dead and used up, resembling grains of black sand at the bottom of the glass ball. Further up the hole, the souls are newer and still have some life left. It takes a few hundred years of draining and feeding before the soul is completely dead. Many believe the soul cannot be killed, and for the most part this is true. Yet this is one of the true monstrosities, these soul eaters, if you will, that are capable of such an atrocity. Those parents never knew the fate that had awaited their child when they brought him to the monastery. They never knew the horror and suffering that beset him. They will never know how his soul suffered for hundreds of years until it was finally, fully, completely consumed. Now, you may be given to think that this is only a fairy tale, that these things are not possible. The truth is, these plasma monsters are real. However, in their natural state, they are harmless, gentle giants that move through the vastness of space. This monster was captured and contained by the evil Black Order that mask as honorable and noble monks. They who, through the ritual of ancient rites, entrapped and enslaved this plasma being down there for thousands of years in its own prison as an instrument of their black fare. I learned of these things in my work as an anthropologist. But I do not know why they would need this entity to harvest souls for them when they themselves are capable of extracting souls on their own. All I know is that there is a horrible, ancient evil within the monastery on the mountain. And for the people who know this, it's already too late.